Here's where it gets tense: no attorney, no legal shield, and a courtroom that's already skeptical. When a parent walks in solo against a seasoned attorney, it's like stepping into a chess match without knowing all the rules. Would you fight it out alone or back off until you had counsel?
The only complaints about these kids have come from their mother and from some of these counselors that she has been able to influence.
Jeffrey Warden,
Yes, sir.
are you represented by counsel?
No, I have not still been able to retain an attorney.
All right. This matter comes before the court at this time for further hearing in regards to a motion to implement physician-recommended medication, suspend parenting time, and other relief. Ms. Hockman, if you please summarize what relief you're seeking today.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, summarizing briefly is going to be a challenge, but I will do my best. Last time we were before you, we were discussing the need for some modifications to parenting time between Dad and Grace, the party's daughter, and the need for certain medical measures for the party's son, Isaac. Since we were last before you, Grace has been evaluated by a PA, and medication has been recommended to be the next step in treating her mental health and emotional well-being.
Quick breakdown: Prozac is being recommended for a minor here, which means the court's balancing medical authority against parental consent. But when one parent refuses treatment, the court has to decide whose best interest really matters, the child's health or the parent's rights. What side would you pick?
Our Exhibit A is that recommendation. The recommendation is for a low dose, 10 milligrams daily of Prozac, and the generic name is used in the recommendation. This recommendation has been communicated with Dad. Dad refuses to consent to the recommended treatment plan. I understand that he wants other options, a second opinion, but to my knowledge, no steps have been taken to obtain a second opinion or look for alternative treatment measures. Additionally, Isaac has been evaluated for ADHD. If you remember, we had to get a court order to proceed with that evaluation. Just last week, Isaac had a follow-up appointment to review that ADHD potential. Previously, the PA believed that he had unspecified ADHD, but wanted to wait to recommend treatment in order to hear from his teachers. So we waited until the school year got started, got past the beginning part of the school year, and then had some input from Isaac's teachers. Now the PA believes that Isaac's struggles are more connected to anxiety. This was an appointment that happened just last week, so I apologize that we don't have a recommendation in our exhibits. But she believes that his struggles are connected to anxiety and has recommended a follow-up appointment in several months to reevaluate that. The concern with anxiety is supported by Isaac's therapist. Isaac, you may recall, we also had discussions about finding Isaac a male therapist. Last time we were before you, Isaac has gotten started with a therapist, Chris Jones is his name. Isaac likes him, things are going well. Just last week, Isaac's therapist, Mr. Chris, wrote a letter sharing his observations and his opinions.
This part's explosive. The therapist just dropped the phrase malicious parent syndrome. It's not officially recognized in medical manuals, but it's a huge red flag in family court. Basically, one parent's accused of turning the child emotionally against the other. Is this genuine concern or weaponized psychology?
That Isaac is experiencing something called malicious parent syndrome. That's contained in a letter that we just received on Friday, so that wasn't submitted with our exhibits. And I'll discuss more about that in a minute. This syndrome that the therapist is discussing is not in the DSM-5, but is a behavioral pattern that's been well documented and has been published about. And a basic summary of that would be when one parent seeks to essentially punish another parent through alienation of the child. That's what this therapist thinks is happening with Isaac. We got this letter on Friday. It describes some of the concerns that the therapist has regarding Isaac and his father. I'll read from it very briefly. Isaac reports his father frequently discusses adult and legal matters during visits, speaks negatively about Isaac's mother, places him in situations that create emotional conflict and anxiety. As a part of this letter, the therapist states, or as a part of this letter, the therapist recounts certain quotes, statements made from Isaac. He's using that as a way to put a basis on his opinions to kind of back that up. So Isaac's statements are contained within this letter, but the therapist states that sharing these statements directly with Isaac's father or his attorney would not be in the best interest of the child. The statement should not be disclosed to the father directly. And essentially, the therapist is saying that he fears retaliation against Isaac if such statements were shared. So we did get this letter just on Friday, but haven't circulated it because of those concerns. And we can certainly discuss more about that. On the topic of emotional retaliation, we understand that Dad has engaged in some inappropriate conversations with Grace, the party's daughter, and our motion recounts a recorded lecture from Dad to Grace that was happening over a trip. I think it was like a family vacation on Dad's time. And I'm sure Your Honor has reviewed those, but I mean, essentially, there's some pretty concerning statements that Dad is making to Grace that's putting Grace, at more risk of emotional dysregulation. We already know that Grace is having issues with.
This is where the case flips from legal to emotional warfare. The mom's lawyer argues the dad's own words are harming the kid's mental health. That's not just evidence, that's ammo. But here's the real question: when does parenting cross the line into manipulation?
Her anxiety, with her mental health. We have recommendations from a PA to proceed with medication, and now Dad's making these statements to Grace that's obviously making her incredibly uncomfortable. So we are in a tough spot. Essentially, the relief that we're asking for specifically today is a suspension of parenting time between Dad and Grace. We don't think that the parenting time is going very well. Dad's making these statements to Grace, and Dad has volunteered away some of his time with Grace, as documented in our motion. We don't think that suspending parenting time between Dad and Isaac would be beneficial. And Isaac's therapist agrees that ceasing that visitation wouldn't be beneficial, but something does need to be done. We are open to suggestions from Your Honor. We're asking for sole medical decision-making for Mom due to the constant roadblocks that Dad puts up regarding the kid's care. If we were to remove that delay that comes from needing to get Dad's consent to move forward with medical and therapeutic measures, and remove the delay that comes from needing to go to court to get a court order to proceed with the necessary care for these kids, maybe the emotional well-being of these kids would improve. But we are open to suggestions.
All right, Ms. Huckman, let me stop you there.
Okay.
Your motion before the court says Mom does not request IW's parenting time with Dad be modified at this time. Now you argue something differently.
No, Your Honor. We're saying we don't think that modifying Dad's parenting time with Isaac would be beneficial. Keep it the same. It's with Grace and Dad that we're concerned about. I apologize if that wasn't clear.
So what time with Isaac would he have currently?
Currently, he has every other weekend after school to Sunday night, correct?
Yes.
And then every other to Monday morning school drop off.
Yes.
And then Tuesday
Or Thursday,
And
depending
then-
on the week.
yeah, 1 week Tuesday night and the other week Thursday night, and that's the time that Grace has with Dad right now.
Okay, why wasn't this other letter shared with Mr. Worden prior to this hearing? I mean, you have his email address, right?
The letter with the therapist.
Yes.
because of those concerns that the therapist specifically stated that not to share it with dad because of fear of retaliation. We wanted to wait to get before Your Honor. I know he does have a right to it. If he wanted to participate in therapy and reach out to the therapist, I think that he could request the letter himself. I think that I don't have a problem sharing this letter with Isaac's statements redacted, because that was specifically what the therapist's concern was, that if dad reads Isaac's words, that there would be some form of retaliation. I'm happy, and I know that I'm referencing this letter, and we didn't provide a copy to the court. We just got it on Friday. I'm happy to send it to Your Honor, but the reason that it wasn't circulated with dad is because of those specific concerns from the therapist.
Notice how the judge presses on why the therapist's letter wasn't shared. That's procedural gold. In court, withholding evidence, even for good reason, can backfire hard. But with allegations of retaliation, the court's caught between protecting a child and respecting due process. Tough call, right?
All right. I think counsel's done a good job of summarizing what they're seeking today and why at this point. Mr. Worden, what is your response?
Well, my response is that she has continued to do this exact same thing, to use your court to push her agenda, the exact same agenda, for 10 years, Your Honor. We did this again. We did this 6 months ago, the exact same thing. We did it the year before that, the exact same thing. We did it the year before that, the exact same thing, on and on and on back, because she's able to get a little bit of ground, gain a little bit of ground from your court every time, apparently, in taking my children away from me and trying to end up getting them both on medications is what she wants to do, and what she has been pushing to do for 10 years. They've been in counseling that entire time since the divorce, since they were little babies, since they were toddlers, Your Honor. They have told me constantly since that time they do not want to be in counseling. The counseling has not helped them. They've continued. Both of them have told me that hundreds of times. Both of them have told me hundreds of times they don't need to be. They don't want to be tested. They don't want to be on medications. They don't want, and they don't believe they need them, just as I have never believed they needed anything like that. She has pushed and manipulated counselors and doctors for 10 years to try to push her agenda. You asked me 6 months ago, I really still have no clue, but the only information along these lines that has ever come out in terms of these children, she's been pushing the ADD and ADHD thing for years with Isaac. She has found a couple of counselors in that time that said maybe he might, have a problem with that. But every teacher, every principal, his Cub Scout leaders, his choir leaders, all of my family and relatives, everybody else that he and Grace have been around have felt like, as well as me, have felt like these kids are great, including you, Your Honor. You've had them in your chambers twice, once 5 years ago, once 6 months ago. Both times you talked about what great and mature kids they were. You specifically said that my son Isaac, back when he was 7 years old, it seemed like he was about as mature as an 11-year-old. Both kids, both times, told you also that they, both times Isaac told you that he wanted more time with me. He always has wanted to spend more time with me. Grace, both times, has said that
Now the father's voice cracks with frustration, 10 years of custody battles, endless evaluations, and a family torn down to legal filings. You can almost feel his exhaustion. But here's the haunting truth, in family court, even love has to be proven on paper. Was justice ever possible here, or just survival?
Said that she's fine with the time that she had, which was, every other weekend. We originally had 2 days a week. A couple sessions ago, you cut it down to 1 day a week. And then the 6 months ago, you okayed for them to take Grace away from me on weekends, and said that, it seemed like 4.5 hours a week is sufficient, even though she told you our relationship was fine. We have not had a strained relationship, other than what her mother has caused through exactly what she said, the alienation, trying to alienate me and my kids' relationships all along. She's done that since the divorce, since they were 2 and 3 years old, or since she kicked me out of the house. Excuse me. The divorce was finalized in 2000. In 2020. But these kids, it's just been an ongoing agenda that she has used your court for, to keep pushing the same exact thing. I can go down through this list, every one of these points that they've made for this, if that's appropriate for me to do, but every one of them is wrong. It's just there's just, she's been lying and slandering me again for 10 years in your court, and the situation has never been presented, the true situation of our family and of my relationship with these kids and their relationship with me, and has never been presented in a truthful light by her or her attorneys. The only other agenda she's had besides these two that I mentioned are, trying to get more and more money, that she's done also little by little by little, which is totally unreasonable as well. Like I said, I haven't been able to even retain an attorney the last 2 court sessions. And again, the last time she notified me on the day of, and I called you to try to get an extension, and you didn't allow that. But, same thing this time. She, her attorney postmarked this on the 18th of October, which was 9 days ago. And that, I didn't even get it in my PO box until after that. But I don't know how I'm supposed to, each time I've just lost ground with my kids, and they've been put in a more precarious situation with all this counseling, with the ongoing counseling, and the ongoing her fighting to try to get people to say bad things about my kids. She's done that to the teachers at school. Multiple times we've gone to parent-teacher conferences, and they've told me the teachers have told me that there's absolutely no cause for any concern. That, I've been told by the principal and teachers that.
You realize that's all hearsay, Mr. Warden. We certainly don't have any documentation of any kind that really is their position. And do you have any contrary medical evidence to contradict what these therapists are recommending to the court at this time?
To me, there's no medical evidence there. Yes, Isaac went back into the